Welcome back. I'm glad my thinking about where Ron had taken place in those events was at the end of the chapter, so we can start fresh this part. Part 2 of chapter 15. We are about halfway down on page 266, so I'll give you a moment to find it, and then I'll begin reading. For those that don't need to find the page, have a quick think about what's happened in the 7 pages we have read so far. Harry had forgotten they still had detentions to do in the furore over the points they'd lost. He'd half expected Hermione to complain that this was a whole night of revision lost, but she didn't say a word. Like Harry, she felt they deserved what they got. Do you think a detention's fair for what they got up to? What would you think would be a fair punishment? Would 50 points and a detention be enough, or do you think it's too much? And if you think it's too much, why do you think it's too much? At 11 o'clock that night, they said goodbye to Ron in the common room and went down to the entrance hall with Neville. Filch was already there, and so was Malfoy. Harry had also forgotten that Malfoy had got a detention too. "Follow me," said Filch, lighting a lamp and leading them outside. "I bet you'll think twice about breaking a school rule again, won't you, eh?" he continued, leering at them. "Oh yes, hard work and pain are the best teachers if you ask me. It's just a pity they let the old punishments die out. Hang you by your wrists from the ceiling for a few days. I've got the chains still in my office. Keep 'em well oiled in case they're ever needed. Right, off we go, and don't think of running off now. It'll be worse off if you do." They marched across the dark grounds. Neville kept sniffing. Harry wondered what their punishment was going to be. It must be something really horrible, or Filch wouldn't be sounding so delighted. The moon was bright, but clouds scudding across it kept throwing them into darkness. Ahead, Harry could see the lighted windows of Hagrid's hut. Then they heard a distant shout. "Is that you, Filch? Hurry up! I want to get started!" Harry's heart rose. If they were going to be working with Hagrid, it wouldn't be so bad. His relief must have showed in his face because Filch said, "I suppose you think you'll be enjoying yourself with that oaf. Well, think again, boy. It's into the forest you're going, and I'm much mistaken if you all come out in one piece." At this, Neville let out a little moan, and Malfoy stopped dead in his tracks. "The forest," he repeated, and he didn't sound quite as cool as usual. "We can't go in there at night. There's all sorts of things in there. Werewolves, I've heard." Neville clutched the sleeve of Harry's robe and made a choking noise. "That's your lookout, isn't it?" said Filch, his voice cracking with glee. "Should have thought of them werewolves before you got into trouble, shouldn't you?" Hagrid came striding towards them out of the dark, Fang at his heel. He was carrying his large crossbow, and a quiver of arrows hung over his shoulder. "About time," he said. "I've been waiting for half an hour already. All right, Harry, Hermione. I shouldn't be too friendly to them, Hagrid," said Filch coldly. "They're here to be punished, after all." "That's why you're late, is it?" said Hagrid, frowning at Filch. "Been lecturing them, eh? It's not your place to do that. We've done your bit. I'll take over from here." "I'll be back at dawn," said Filch. "For what's left of them," he added nastily, and he turned and started back towards the castle, his lamp bobbing away in the darkness. Malfoy now turned to Hagrid. "I'm not going into that forest," he said, and Harry was pleased to hear the note of panic in his voice. "Yeah, you are if you're to stay at Hogwarts," said Hagrid fiercely. "You've done wrong, and now you've got to pay for it. But this servant stuff, it's not for students to do. I thought we'd be writing lines or something. If my father knew I was doing this, he'd tell you that's how it is at Hogwarts," Hagrid growled. "So you'll notice I can read something 3 or 4 times to get it right. And that's okay to do. Writing lines, what good's that to anyone? You'll do something useful or you'll get out. If you think your father'd rather you were expelled, then get back to the castle and go pack. Go on." Malfoy didn't move. He looked at Hagrid furiously, but then dropped his gaze. "Right then," said Hagrid. "Now listen carefully, because it's dangerous what we're going to do tonight, and I don't want no one taking risks. Follow me over here a moment." He led them to the very edge of the forest, holding his lamp up high. He pointed down a narrow, winding earth track that disappeared into the thick, black trees. A light breeze lifted their hair. as they looked into the forest. "Look there," said Hagrid. "See the stuff shining on the ground? Silvery stuff? That's unicorn blood. There's a unicorn in there been hurt badly by something. This is the second time in a week. I found one dead last Wednesday. We're going to try and find the poor thing. We might have to put it out of its misery." "And what if whatever hurt the unicorn finds us first?" said Malfoy, unable to keep the fear out of his voice. "There's nothing that lives in the forest that'll hurt you if you're with me or Fang," said Hagrid. "And keep to the path. Right, now, we're going to split into 2 parties and follow the trail in different directions. There's blood all over the place. It must have been staggering around since last night at least." "I want Fang," said Malfoy quickly, looking at Fang's long teeth. "All right, but I warn ya, he's a coward," said Hagrid. "So me and Harry and Hermione will go one way, and Draco, Neville and Fang will go the other. Now, if any of us finds the unicorn, we'll send up green sparks, right? Get your wands out and practice now. That's it. And if anyone gets into trouble, send up red sparks, and we'll all come and find you. So be careful. Let's go." The forest was black and silent. A little way into it they reached a fork in the path, and Harry, Hermione and Hagrid took the left path, while Malfoy, Neville and Fang took the right. They walked in silence, their eyes on the ground. Every now and then a ray of moonlight through the branches above lit a spot of silver blue blood on the fallen leaves. Harry saw that Hagrid looked very worried. "Could a werewolf be killing the unicorns?" Harry asked. "Not fast enough," said Hagrid. "It's easy to catch a unicorn. It's not easy to catch a unicorn. They're powerful magic creatures. I never knew one to be hurt before." They walked past a mossy tree stump. Harry could hear running water. There must be a stream somewhere close by. There were still spots of unicorn blood here and there along the winding path. "You're all right, Hermione," Hagrid whispered. "Don't worry. It can't have gone far if it's this badly hurt, and then we'll be able to—" "Get behind that tree!" Hagrid seized Harry and Hermione and hoisted them off the path behind a towering oak. He pulled out an arrow and fitted it into his crossbow, raising it ready to fire. The 3 of them listened. Something was slithering over dead leaves nearby. It sounded like a cloak trailing along the ground. Hagrid was squinting up the dark path, but after a few seconds the sound faded away. "I knew it," he murmured. "There's something in here that shouldn't be." "A werewolf?" Harry suggested. "There wasn't no werewolf, and it wasn't no unicorn neither," said Hagrid grimly. "Right, follow me, but careful now." They walked more slowly, ears straining for the faintest sound. Suddenly, in a clearing ahead, something definitely moved. "Who's there?" Hagrid called. "Show yourself! I'm armed!" And into the clearing came, was it a man or a horse? To the waist a man, with red hair and a beard, but below that was a horse's gleaming chestnut body with a long reddish tail. Harry and Hermione's jaws dropped. "Oh, it's you, Ronan," said Hagrid in relief. "How are you?" He walked forward and shook the centaur's hand. "Good evening to you, Hagrid," said Ronan. He had a deep, sorrowful voice. "Were you going to shoot me?" "Can't be too careful, Ronan," said Hagrid, patting his crossbow. "There's something bad loose in this forest. This is Harry Potter and Hermione Granger, by the way. Students up at the school. And this is Ronan. You two, he's a centaur." "We'd noticed," said Hermione faintly. "Good evening," said Ronan. "Students, are you? And you learn much up at the school?" A bit," said Hermione timidly. "A bit? Well, that's something," Ronan sighed. He flung back his head and stared at the sky. "Mars is bright tonight." "Yeah," said Hagrid, glancing up too. "Listen, I'm glad we've run into you, Ronan, 'cause there's a unicorn been hurt. You seen anything?" Ronan didn't answer immediately. He stared unblinkingly upwards, then sighed again. "Always the innocent are the first victims," he said. "So it has been for ages past. So it is now." "Yeah," said Hagrid. "But have you seen anything, Ronan? Anything unusual?" "Mars is bright tonight," Ronan repeated, while Hagrid watched him impatiently. "Unusually bright." "Yeah, but I was meaning anything unusual a bit nearer home," said Hagrid. "So yeah, have you noticed anything strange?" Yet again, Ronan took a while to answer. At last he said, "The forest hides many secrets." A movement in the trees behind Ronan made Hagrid raise his bow again, but it was only a second centaur, black-haired and bodied and wilder looking than Ronan. "Hello, Bane," said Hagrid. "All right?" "Good evening, Hagrid. I hope you are well." Well enough, look, I've just been asking Ronan, you seen anything odd in here lately? Only a unicorn's been injured. Would you know anything about it? Bane walked over to stand next to Ronan. He looked skywards. Mars is bright tonight, he said simply. We've heard, said Hagrid grumpily. Well, if either of you do see anything, let me know, won't ya? We'll be off then. And I will pause there at the end of part 2, and I'll be back shortly.